The round begins. Your jab gets sidestepped. Immediately, your brain says, okay, they like to sidestep. The very next interaction, you hesitate. You stop using your jab. You change your timing. You completely alter your offense. But then, something strange happens. They never sidestepped again. Not for the rest of the round. Not because they stopped, but because they never had the habit in the first place. One moment, one interaction completely changed the way you played. And that's one of the biggest mistakes competitive players make. They mistake information for evidence. The best players don't. They understand something that changes everything. One interaction is just data. 3 interactions are then a pattern. And if you adapt too early, you might be solving a problem that really never existed. Welcome back to How Winners Think. One of the most praised skills in Tekken is adaptation. We hear it all the time. You need to adapt faster. Read your opponent. Figure them out. That's good advice, but it's also incomplete advice. Because nobody talks about the opposite problem. Adapting too quickly. The truth is, every decision your opponent makes isn't a habit. Sometimes they are just experimenting. Sometimes they are just reacting. Sometimes they just guessed correctly. And if you completely change your strategy after one interaction, you may end up adapting to something that isn't actually there. Today, we are going to explore why competitors stay patient before changing their game plan, how they separate information from evidence, and why disciplined observation often beats fast reactions. Because great players don't adapt to moments, they adapt to patterns. Human beings love certainty. Our brains are constantly searching for patterns. It's how we learn, it's how we survive. But there's a problem. Sometimes we find patterns that don't actually exist. Imagine your opponent ducks one throw. Immediately, you then start to think that your opponent always ducks. So you stop throwing, you switch to mids. 10 seconds later, you realize they weren't ducking because of habit. They just guessed. One correct guess became an imaginary pattern. Your brain wasn't lying, it was simply trying to remove uncertainty as quickly as possible. The faster you believe you've solved the puzzle, the more comfortable you feel. But comfort isn't always accuracy. Imagine you're a detective. You arrive at a crime scene. You find one footprint. Would you immediately solve the entire case? Of course not. One clue isn't enough. So you collect more information, you verify, you compare. Only then do you reach a conclusion. Tekken works exactly the same way. One sidestep, one duck, one low parry, one interrupt. Those aren't answers, they are clues. Elite players understand this. Average players tend to not. That's why average players constantly swing between strategies. Every interaction changes their mind. Elite players stay calm. They are building a case, not chasing a conclusion. The strongest players rarely rush to judge. Instead, they wait, not because they are slow, but because they are disciplined. Imagine someone interrupts your pressure just once. Interesting. But then twice. Now you are paying attention. And then next 3 times. Now you can say that this is evidence. Notice the difference. You are no longer reacting emotionally, you are responding logically. Patterns reveal themselves naturally if you have the patience to just wait for them and let them come. This is where emotions tend to become more dangerous than ever. Sometimes we don't adapt because we've collected evidence. We adapt because we are afraid. Yes, that's the honest truth. Your opponent launches you once, so now you stop pressing. They break one throw, so now you never throw again. They sidewalk one heat engager, you stop using it entirely. Notice what's happening. Fear has replaced observation. Instead of asking, is this a pattern? You are now asking, how do I stop that from happening again? Those are very different questions. Fear wants immediate certainty, but discipline waits for proof. Watch high-level tournament sets. The best players don't completely reinvent themselves after just one mistake. They actually just stay composed. They collect information and then they verify. Only then, and I mean only then, do they adjust. Why, you may ask? Because long sets reward patience. If you overreact every time something goes wrong, your opponent doesn't need to adapt. You'll do it for them. That's one of the biggest hidden advantages of disciplined competitors. They make fewer unnecessary changes, which means their decisions stay connected to reality, not emotion. The next time something surprises you, don't immediately search for an answer. Search for confirmation. Ask yourself, was that a habit? Or was that a single moment? Those questions slow your thinking, just enough to stop unnecessary adaptation. And that's incredibly powerful, because every incorrect adjustment costs you options. Every unnecessary change gives away part of your game plan. The strongest competitors protect their strategy until they have a real reason to change it. Not because they are stubborn, but because they are patient. For your next ranked session, make one promise to yourself. Don't adapt after the first interaction. Instead, use this simple framework. First time, interesting. Second time, maybe. Third time, now I believe it. You'll be amazed how often your first assumption turns out to be wrong. Tekken constantly gives you information. The challenge isn't finding it. The challenge is interpreting it correctly. One interaction is rarely enough. One mistake rarely tells the whole story. One successful read doesn't automatically become a habit. Great players understand that truth isn't found in moments, it's found in repetition. That's why they look calmer. That's why they seem impossible to surprise. Not because they know more, but because they conclude less, until they have enough evidence. If you remember one thing from this video, remember this: do not adapt to moments, adapt to patterns. The next time your opponent surprises you, don't rush to solve the puzzle. Let them show you another piece, then another, then another. Because the strongest competitors aren't the ones who adapt the fastest. They are the ones who adapt at the right time. This has been How Winners Think. Until next time, 1 interaction is information, but 3 interactions are evidence. Think first.